Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name's Carter. I love talking about movies, horror movies, superheroes, and comic books. And speaking of horror movies, there's nothing I love more than being surprised by a good movie, especially a good horror movie. I've gotten so into horror movies to the point where I am just watching horror movie after horror movie, editing a video about horror movies for my channel as we speak. But I just got out of seeing MAXXXINE, which is the finale, the conclusion to Ti West's trilogy of X, Pearl, and MAXXXINE. And MAXXXINE is written, directed, and edited by Ti West. It stars Mia Goth, Kevin Bacon, Giancarlo Esposito. I can't remember if it's Esposito or Esposito, and I don't have my laptop in front of me, so that's my bad. And I also am not sure who the cinematography is by. Again, my laptop, I left it at work, so that is such a bummer. And it follows MAXXXINE after the events of X, where she's breaking into Hollywood. She's an adult film star, very well recognized. Apparently, she's very well known in that world, and she's trying to break into the world of Hollywood, all while the Night Stalker is on the loose killing people. And just to kind of quickly lay some groundwork of my thoughts of both X and Pearl, X, I think, was alright. I don't think it's the second coming of horror movies, horror slashers, like a lot of people did and still do. I think it is fine. A lot of it works for me, but as soon as they start introducing the themes of like sexuality with Pearl and Howard and just kind of diving into that, it doesn't work for me. Everything with the elderly people in that film just falls right flat on its face, and it doesn't work for me in the slightest. The gore and kills are cool, but unfortunately I just don't care about quite a few of the characters in that film, so it didn't really wow me, it didn't stun me. I went and saw Pearl as well, day one in the theater. Mia Goth is tremendous in that film. I think that although her performance, in my opinion, does grate on my nerves, it's a very controversial opinion. I know I'm in the minority, I just have to be honest. Pearl wasn't really for me. I can respect what they're going for, but I just found it to be very, very slow. Again, another movie to where I don't understand the hype in the slightest. So I went into MAXXXINE. I was excited. I have a few friends on TikTok that told me they really, really liked it, and I trust their opinions, and I was pretty excited because I just always want to be excited for movies. I love movies. I want to be excited for every movie that I see, so I went in with moderate to low expectations, but was still excited. I just love going to the theater, love going to see movies, and I'm very happy to say MAXXXINE is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me personally. Have you seen MAXXXINE? If so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think about the other movies in the X Factor or X trilogy? X and Pearl, do you like them? Do you not like them? Are you like me to where they didn't really work for you, but MAXXXINE did? Or is it the other way around? Let me know down in the comment section below and enjoy the rest of the video. So going right into the positives, the thing that stuck out to me the biggest was how Ti West really goes for a feeling or an atmosphere in his movies. In X, he had the kind of backwater farmhouse 70s aesthetic of Texas Chainsaw. In Pearl, he had the like Wizard of Oz nightmare aesthetic, Technicolor aesthetic of the 50s, 60s. And here he goes for the what I'm told is a giallo. I don't know a lot of giallo films, but he goes for the like very old school 80s horror, 80s atmosphere, and it really worked for me. Far and away, my favorite part of the film was that atmosphere, was that just living in the 80s horror Hollywood era, and I thought it was amazing. Just small things all the way down from people protesting, saying that Satan is in the films, Satan is in Hollywood, to bigger, more larger themes like being on studio backlots, chases on studio backlots. I mean, MAXXXINE is starring in a horror movie, so there's like that aspect to it as well. I think they struck a pretty good balance. That's like a little thought that I had, like, oh, maybe they'll do this, and they didn't. So keep that in mind. They do play around with that, but not in the way that people might expect, like Scream 3 does. It's very, very grounded in that aspect. It takes it very seriously. There are a few hilarious jokes in here about that. Speaking of which, the humor was, again, for me, a surprise. I thought the humor was very, very spot on. I found the film to be very funny, and normally, if I'm being totally honest, I would have an issue with that tonal shift. But this is a rare instance to where I found that MAXXXINE, for me, struck that tonal balance. This is not going to be a movie for everybody. There's like very dark, graphic violence, murders on screen, and then a joke that made me die laughing. And a few people, like the guy in front of me, did not find this movie funny in the slightest. I'm pretty sure he disliked it. The people behind me really dug it along with me, and they found it to be very, very funny. This is a movie where I feel like some people will really not vibe with it, not jive with anything whatsoever. Like how I felt with Pearl, they will feel that, but with MAXXXINE. and what other people felt with Pearl and X, I feel that with MAXXXINE. I am all aboard the MAXXXINE train. I had a ton of fun with this film. Ty West does a great job just editing as well. There's a lot of fantastic transitions. There's a lot of fantastic shot selection, and unfortunately, I can't credit the cinematographer because, again, I don't have my laptop in front of me, but just simple things to where the frame will split in half, and on one side, you'll see MAXXXINE doing something. On the other side, you'll see another thing going on, or wipe transitions. Just very fun, and the beginning of the film is just really playing into that 80s grunge aspect, and I found that just to be very, very charming. I had a great time with all of the Hollywood love and Hollywood nods because I adore movies. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just superhero movies and Marvel and IPs. I have a great time with a lot of horror movies. Over there is a wall dedicated to horror films. Right here is a bunch of movie posters that people never see that isn't just superheroes and IPs. I love movies of all kinds, and MAXXXINE is a love letter to 80s horror, which is my favorite decade of horror. I actually think that stylistically, this is Ty West's best movie. I really don't care for The House of the Devil, I believe that's the title. His from like 2009 with Greta Gerwig. I didn't really like that movie at all. I think that this aesthetic and this atmosphere, Ty West really nailed, and he actually thrives here. I would love to see more period movies in this timeline. I would adore if he did more like this and just really sent it for that atmosphere, really tried to go for it, because I think he really nails it here. Another positive is the score. I thought the score and the music here were great. They just add to the overall 80s flair and 80s just vibe. The performances as well always are great. Mia Goth is great in everything she's in. She's so much fun in this, playing a more muted MAXXXINE. I feel like some people are also gonna nail down there's not a lot of character arcs or depth here. To me, I didn't really mind that. It's not a story of where MAXXXINE starts and ends, emotionally as a character. To me, it was where she started and ended physically, or in her lifestyle, I guess is a good way to put it. That was more what I found interesting than her character arc in this film. I also think that Kevin Bacon is so awesome here. He is so fun, so over the top, so loony, to where every time he was on screen, he just stole the show for me. It was fantastic. Honestly, if I was going down a list of my positives, the more I think about this movie, the more fun and more I love it. So I could go on for days with all the positives. Writing, directing, editing, effects are great. Everything is really, really good here. If I had to say a mix, I would say that this is not a film for everybody. This is a movie that definitely does bite off a lot. Some people will say it was more than it could chew. There's a lot going on here. I've seen people criticize the plot threads and the amount of things that are going on here. I didn't really see it. I can definitely kind of understand where they're coming from, but the film was actually quite simple. I feel like there's maybe an expectation people might have from the beginning of the film that isn't quite met. The plot is pretty predictable. You can tell where it's going from the very beginning. I still found it to be a very enjoyable ride. It didn't really bug me at all. There's still a few surprises here, and honestly, like I've mentioned a million times, the atmosphere really won me over. The atmosphere went so far for me to where I'm probably overlooking a few of the movie's flaws. I'm giving it more credit, and I do think also that people might have an issue with tone and pacing. For me, I definitely can see it does run out of a little steam at the very, very end. It picks up in a way that I was very engaged and interested in, and then it kind of sidesteps that and slows down a little. And then the ending, I found, that's definitely Ty West just maybe jumping the gun a tiny bit on like one scene in the end that I felt could have just been removed and tightened up a little bit. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed this film. So overall, guys, I am very surprised to say that I loved MAXXXINE. I had a great time with this movie. It will not be for everybody. It's very gory, very graphic, but it somehow does have a little less kills, a little less momentum, I think people might say, than everyone would expect. It's very different. It's much more of a thriller than an outright horror, and much more of a thriller than an outright character study than Pearl as well. So I actually really enjoyed this film. I had a great time, like I've mentioned a million times. I'm going to give it like a 9 out of 10. MAXXXINE really hit for me today, and I am definitely looking forward to rewatching this as soon as I can. So as always, guys, thank you so much for the support on the channel. Anyways, as always, have a great rest of your day.